Bulls Nation, this video is probably long overdue, but there is some discussions that I want to talk about in terms of some concerns I have with some of these players. And again, it kind of sucks that I'm making this video right after a loss against the New York Knicks, but I had plans to make this video even when we were winning. It is a concern that I don't think is going to be a concern in the long run, but as long as it's happening now, it is something that we probably should discuss, and that is Coby White and his role with the Chicago Bulls so far this season. So without further ado, let's talk about Coby White in this video. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? It's the Aidan Sports Show, and welcome back to another video. Today, we've got another Chicago Bulls video in relation to Coby White, the role that he's playing for the Chicago Bulls, and overall what we can do to see the best out of Coby White in future games, and how he's supposed to be performing to a higher standard to allow Chicago Bulls to win a little bit more games. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel. Turn notifications on. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts about Coby White are over the past few weeks and overall the potential that Coby White has. Because at the end of the day, Coby White is only 20 years old. Coby White is in a new formation, a new role, I guess you could say, for the Chicago Bulls. He's becoming the primary point guard. This is basically his first season starting as a starter. And at the end of the day, he is struggling at the moment. These last few games for Coby White, maybe there is a few exceptions here and there, but the last few games for Coby White, we've not seen the best or anywhere near the potential that we've seen from last season to now. And we need to find out that reason why. Now, obviously, the reason is fairly simple. He's in a new role. He's having a lot more responsibility. He's trying to be a leader. There's a lot of things that doesn't necessarily reflect to, oh, he's shooting badly. That makes Coby White a little bit of a concern. And again, Coby White is someone that I don't have issues with long term. He's only 20 years old. He's definitely going to be, in my opinion, one of the future players the Chicago Bulls will keep. He's going to be a player that I believe that the Chicago Bulls will like. I do think ultimately he will become one of the better players in the NBA. But right now, it's becoming a little bit of a concern because at the end of the day, results need to happen now. And we're in a position where if we want to make the playoffs, we need to win now. We need to win games on a consistent basis. We need to beat teams that are put in front of us that are at the same level, if not worse than us. And so far, we're doing a mixed job at doing that. And most of the time, when Coby White plays well, we win games. When Coby White doesn't play well, we tend to lose the games. So in my opinion, Coby White is the key factor in this. Coby White is the main reason behind this. And we need to see the best out of Coby White. So we need to find out ways that he can try and become his best. Now, there are many, many ways we could do this, to be honest. There are many ways we could just say, Coby White, get back to your best. There are many ways that can allow him to get at his best. I think the first thing that we need to do is kind of limit the pressure. At the end of the day, being a starting point guard on a team that's aspiring to be a playoffs, as you're 20 years old, you're not naturally a point guard. You're trying to develop into a natural point guard. It's a lot of pressure on Coby White, and maybe that pressure is just slightly overtaking him at the moment, and he's playing with pressure on his back. And maybe he's not that type of player that likes all the pressure on him, all the pressure to perform on him. And maybe down the line, he will be that player. And maybe these experiences of being this point guard and struggling now will help him in the future. But I feel like it is definitely going to be a situation where if we limit the pressure from Coby White, we might be able to get a better Coby White at this point of the season. And maybe that's what the Chicago Bulls need to find ways to do. That's the first thing I think we need to say. He's a very young player. He's a young player that's been thrown into the fire, as have a lot of our players. Patrick Williams is another one. 19 years old, no summer league, thrown into the fire right into the season. And he's doing all right. He's doing fine. And Coby White is one of those players right now that's been put into a new role, thrown into the fire, and let's see how he does. And I don't think he's been terrible, but again, as I said before, he can do better. Obviously, there's a discussion about Coby White when it comes to should he go to the bench or not. This, in my opinion, depends on what you want out of this season, because this is a season where the Chicago Bulls, Arturius, Eversley, Billy Donovan, all the assistant coaches, player development coaches, everybody on this team, it's experimenting. We are in an experimental season. This season is not designed to get the absolute best out of these players, in my opinion personally. Now, we are getting a lot of good things out of our players. Larry Markkinen is performing at a high level despite his last game. Thaddeus Young is performing completely differently to last season. Zach LaVine is becoming more of a playmaker every single game than just a scorer, and he's still finding ways to get his own scoring opportunities. Wendell Carter's taking more load on the offensive side, granted that he is injured at this time. We have seen a lot more responsibility given to these players, and some of these players are taking that responsibility. So this is an experimental process of who's going to be here long term, who might not be the answer, who is someone that we need to go and target, and all these things. And Coby White fits part of that as well. So if you're looking to experiment, then I don't think putting Coby White to the bench is the best idea. Because at the end of the day, we're experimenting Coby White as a primary point guard. And maybe towards the end of the season, we bail on that completely because we know it's not the right answer. But at the end of the day, we need to keep experimenting because there have been good games out of Coby White. There's been games where he's got his career high in assists. There was one game he got 13 assists for the Chicago Bulls. He's gotten the most assists on the team, I believe, all season. He's averaging more assists than some of the top point guards in the NBA. Again, it doesn't come naturally to him, but he is doing these things. So again, experimenting is not a bad thing for this team at the moment, a very young, inexperienced team. Obviously, we want to win. Obviously, we want to make the playoffs. And that still is a very big goal for us that I still think we can achieve, especially right now during this season. But we still need to find ways to experiment. So if you're going to put Coby White to the bench, who are you going to play? Well, the key answer would be Satoransky. But ladies and gentlemen, Satoransky just came back from his virus. He just came back to the Chicago Bulls. If you've noticed, Satoransky doesn't play a lot. He's being put into the fire once again as well. He's trying. We want Satoransky to play more, to limit that pressure off of Coby White, to limit our turnovers. And so far, it's been all right. It's not been too bad with Satoransky. But to expect him to come in to start and to play 30 minutes when he's just come back and he's only really playing around 14, 15 minutes a game, maybe even less at sometimes, I don't think this is the right time to say put Coby White on the bench because I don't think we have another point guard that could potentially take his spot in the starting lineup at the moment, which is probably why we are targeting a veteran point guard coming into the trade period or free agency. That's probably what we're going to do. In the end, that is the main topic of discussion with Coby White. We need to see him have the pressure played off of him. I want Coby White to play freely. I want Coby White to express himself in his own way. We find balance. We don't want Coby White to become a player that he's never going to be good at. We want Coby White to find and add elements to the games that he is good at. Billy Donovan said this at the beginning of the season. We need to find more ways for these players to become better without taking away their weaknesses. Coby White is a good mid-range shooter. He's been shooting a lot of them this season. That's good. That's what he's good at. That's what he's naturally good at. And adding the element of playmaking into that will help this team. At the end of the day, the Chicago Bulls do have a lot to work on. Coby White has a lot to work on. But this is the video I wanted to make just so I can express that as mixed as Coby White has played this season, and especially towards these last few games, I don't think it's the end of the world for Coby White. I don't think we should be pressing the panic button. I've seen people say trade Coby White. Now, depending on why you trade Coby White, that's up to you. But if you're just doing it based on recent performances, I don't think that's the right way to go. Because at the end of the day, we have so much potential in our players. Our players are very young. We have a very young team, and we're still fighting for playoff contention. Like I said, we are one of the youngest teams in the NBA. To expect consistency out of the youngest team, one of the youngest starting lineups in the NBA, it's just not natural. We're not going to get consistency out of everybody every night. But games like this, experiences like this, losses like the Knicks, losses like the Lakers, games where Coby White does not play well, should hopefully help him in a year's time, in 2 years' time, when he's growing, when he's in his third or fourth year in the NBA, when he has more experience, when he's becoming more of a veteran. He can have those experiences to look back on and to know what to do in certain situations, what not to do in certain situations. At the end of the day, we have a lot of work to do. I've said that, I don't know how many times I've said that in this video, but Coby White is definitely part of that. Don't push the panic button on Coby White. It's not an emergency just yet for Coby White to be performing badly. What I think we should do And what I think Billy Donovan should do to answer the topic of this video is to allow Coby White to play freely. When he plays freely with no pressure on his back, that's the best Coby White we've seen. In the last 2 months, when Jim Boylan and was playing Coby White off the bench, he was playing free at least. He was playing freely. He was doing what he wanted to do. And I don't think he's doing that under Billy Donovan at this point in time. But again, the season's still very, very early, and he's still stepping up. He's still having a better season, in my opinion, than last season. It's just that maybe the leap that we expected him to take is just not as big as the one he is taking. But there's still a lot of positive things towards Coby White and his game. And we are seeing positive things out of Coby White. We're seeing positive things out of the Bulls. Now it's just to find that consistency of having those good performances, of being a good team, of winning games consistently, and having good performances from our star players. And the quicker we see that, the more growth that we see that from our players, I think the better we'll be over time. I'm going to end this video here. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. This video could be just a tad bit biased. I did record this right after the New York Knicks game. So maybe some of the things that I do say is a bit heated. Maybe it's not even correct. And that's where you guys come in. If you guys have anything you want to talk about in relation to Coby White, the Chicago Bulls, anything really, make sure to leave the comment below. I do reply to my comments. And yeah, let's have the conversation. Is Coby White something to be worried about at this point in time? Or is it just, let's just wait and see what happens? We're experimenting. Coby White is part of that experiment. We will know our answers towards the end of the season. What do you guys think? Have a wonderful day. Take care and peace.